the best solutions to the plastic problem. My name's Troy, this is Applying Principles. So there's a lot of different solutions that I've found to one of the biggest problems that we have today, which is plastic. Plastic is a huge, enormous utility that we have. It serves so many functions, but the key thing is for most of those functions, we can supplement the current plastics, petroleum plastics, with plant-based plastics for almost all the uses that we use them for, and save the petroleum-based plastics for more specific uses. We have a lot of plastic in production right now, and we just need better recycling facilities. We just need to value recycling more as just a priority, because we're creating all of these resources that can't be reused, or we're just letting them go out because they're not cost effective, and we're not creating effective distribution and reintegration services so that they can properly get back into the system and be allocated properly instead of just being used as landfill. At minimum, if we can't properly utilize certain plastics, why can't we at least bale them up into something so that we can use them later as bulk materials? And I recognize that takes money right now to basically create a commodity that somebody doesn't necessarily want. But we have to move that way in our society to really value both our creations and the effects of what we do on nature. There's some bioplastics around, but most of those are PLA plastics. And from what I understand, I don't have a clear source on this, but some of them are plant-based and some of them have plant bases, but they also have petroleum plastics in them. So all of those PLA plastics, they will break down in a thermophilic compost if you get them above like 150 degrees, which is normal for a good compost pile, a normal thermophilic compost pile. And that heat will melt that down, but from what I hear, that there's still some plastic particles in that. I'm not 100% sure. I'm trying to find some good resources on that. Please share me some resources if you find something on this. But there's a PHA plastic that some guys called Full Cycle Bioplastics are making, and apparently you can make that out of just any kind of decomposing plant matter, or so you can take waste crops from the field, which aren't going to sell and basically are essentially waste in our current economy. They can go and take that and put that into plastic material, and then that plastic material, they're going to want to first priority is be able to recycle that back in, because they put a lot of energy in that, and it's better to stay as plastic rather than to be put back as a food material. But if those plastic materials, the PHAs, get out into the society or into the ecosystems, or even into the aquatic ecosystems, they're going to break down and turn into plant food or animal food eventually. So they don't have nearly the same kind of detriment that the other kinds of plastics do. Another great project is the ocean cleanup. It started by Boylan Slat from the Netherlands, and his whole project is to create floating ocean liners that are harvesting the trash out of the ocean, which is primarily plastic, and mainly the floating plastic. He's had some great progress and he's had a lot of investors, but his first project has had to actually come back earlier than planned because of failure. But I wish him lots of success. I think he's going to be one of the great forefronts in leading cleaning out the ocean. Now, there's other ways that people have been cleaning out the ocean as well, but they've been mainly doing that in docks, which is a lot easier to do. So you can do in your own bay or whatever in your dock system, that you have a conveyor belt system going into some mesh grate systems, or you have some other kinds of, similar to a pool filter, that you just you're creating a negative space for the water to go into, that you're have a net or a basket in there, and you're just literally scooping the trash out. Now people are doing this on a small scale, and I think it's good to have these installed all over the place just to get standard amounts of trash in there, especially the plastics and such in there that aren't gonna biodegrade in any way into the environment. The plastic bank has some interesting ideas Now, they're an international bank that they deal with third world countries, and they actually award money to people for harvesting plastic off of the beach and other places like that. So they're actually harvesting the plastic and putting it back into production as an active recycling system while creating jobs for people and creating income for people who wouldn't have it. It's a pretty clever idea. David Katz has a TED Talk about it, and he also has some other videos online if you want to check them out. And a couple other solutions that people have come up with around the world are using them as building materials. Now, you can make pop bottles into nice solid bricks if you pack them full of a lot of small plastic debris, and then if you pack them really tight, they can be really strong, and then you can stack them up and then cob them together, and then you're using the strength of those bottles being packed so tightly as your building medium. Another way that somebody's done it is that you're using rebar, or you're using something else as your strength medium, and then you're using your pop bottles as your insulation. So you're basically trapping the air inside of them and then holding them in place as your insulation. Also, people are just throwing small amounts of plastic in their foundation or such like that, just as a filler material. And if you put in a small amount of stuff as you're putting in stuff around with a concrete foundation, just a couple pieces in here and there, or if you're using them as to reinforce your rebar and such like that, I've found is a good way to just utilize extra plastic in an effective way, because the plastic is going to stretch a lot more than the rebar while reinforcing it at the same time. And it's kind of redundant, but it's basically just a way to get rid of excess plastic. Right now, there aren't really any regulations for using a lot of plastics in these ways, at least in the United States. But that doesn't mean that we can't try them out on sheds and such like that to proof of concept, because there's lots of people trying to push the boundaries with cob, because cob's pretty impressive, and there's a lot of people trying to change the building codes in certain ways and trying to meet the building codes while still doing these alternative building methods. And I really support that. Now, I think plastics are primarily used for packaging materials more than anything else, because they're really effective, they're really cheap, and they're disposable. Now, if we can just try to transition our mentality that there is solutions in this, and that if we start to enable companies that do have the solutions and start to push for that, now that we know that there are solutions, we don't have to listen to them when they tell us that there isn't really an effective way to do this, because there are effective ways to do this, and we have the solutions, we just need to implement them. Thanks for watching. I hope you watch a couple more of my videos. Have a great day.